Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks on how to repair big dents like this so that you could be more confident with your bodywork or side projects. The first thing I always do when repairing damage is getting the overall shape of the panel back to normal. I'll start by knocking out the wheelhouse edge with a slide hammer. Then I'll knock down any crowns or high spots. Now to tackle the main damage. If you take a good look at the damage, it may look like a crease, but around the crease is actually a big dent. I'll start by using a series of glue tabs along the crease to remove the bulk of the dent. Using glue is super helpful when removing big dents because it helps move a lot of metal. I'll use the slide hammer going back and forth working out the dent. I'll strip the paint down to metal so that I'm able to use a dent puller. I'll be using the Maxi, but you can also use a Unispotter with pins. Before using the dent puller, I like to spray guide coat and sand it down to reveal my highs and low spots. All the dark spots that were left untouched from sanding are low spots. These are areas we'll need to work out. When metalworking a crease, I prefer using a slapping file instead of a body hammer. It has a wider surface area which helps knock down the high spots while not creating any extra damage. What I'm doing here is using the rod to hold pressure out on the low spot while using the slapper to knock around the crease. This will help flatten it out. I'll clean up the burn marks from the dent puller with a roll-lock wheel, then I'll use 80 grit on a DA center to blend out the paint before applying a coat of body filler. I'll start the first coat with Rage body filler. When mixing body filler, always use a clean surface. If you're starting out, I recommend using as big as a board as you can get. It can get quite messy. The mixture ratio is 50 to 1 body filler to hardener. I normally just put a bead of hardener about 3/4 to halfway across. When mixing body filler, you don't want to stir it as it will create air pockets in your filler. What you want to do is press it down tightly as you see me doing here. Continue doing this until it's a uniform color. When applying body filler for the first layer onto the metal, try to apply it as tight as possible. You don't want to get it all in one shot, rather applying several thin coats on top as needed. I'll start sanding the first coat with 80 grit sandpaper. My goal is to sand for the overall shape of the panel. Once I have the shape, I'll start working on making sure it's nice and flat. If you hit any metal spots that stick out, hammer them down before continuing. Now that I'm happy with the overall shape, it's ready for a coat of metal glaze. This is also a type of body filler, but it's much thinner. I'll be applying this over the paint. I always apply this as a final coat to blend out the bodywork and to fill in any deep scratches from the last coat. I'll sand this with 180 grit, then finish in a 220 grit. I've also applied a dry guide coat onto the filler to have a visual on my sanding. You can see how useful the guide coat is here while sanding the body line. With the block sanding done, I'll use a DA sander with 220 grit to remove any block sanding scratches on the paint around the body filler. Then I'll apply Evercoat's 440 Express to fill in any micro pinholes. I've installed the bumper and taillights to make sure it still matches up. I wasn't happy with the body line here, so I've matched the body line on the other side with my tool and drew a line. Then I'll apply a tape and correct the body line. With everything corrected, the final thing to do is to double check the bodywork. I'll spray quick check over the entire area and look through the reflections for any imperfections. If everything looks good, then you're all done and ready for primer. But for this video, that's gonna be it. Hope you learned something.